All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Brushing Them Back with Colby White. Colby, how you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm perfect. Feeling good. Arms feeling great. In good spirits. Can't complain.
Well, thank the Lord. We need to get you back to a Hyundai as quick as we can.
That's it.
All right, we're going to shift from our favorite pitcher to one of the most. He's just a large character. We're just going to leave it at that. We'll get into the large part in a minute, but he was quite a character during his playing days, and we were excited to get an opportunity to have him on the show. I'd like to welcome to the show today, Mr. Kevin Minch. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for having me on. I'm able just to finally sit down for the weekend and relax.
Well, I am glad to hear that, sir. All right, so we need to jump right in there. We know you were a big time character back in the day. Is it because you came from a tiny little state of Delaware that you had this chip on your shoulder the entire time you were trying to play ball?
No, not at all. I've always been outgoing that way. I've just been, I mean, you put me in a room with 100 people. I mean, I'm going to probably talk to as many as I can. I wasn't that guy who stood in the corner. I wanted to be involved. It's funny you talk about wanting to talk to people. I can do that, yet I can't stand in front of a crowd and get up there on a soapbox and talk. That's everybody's seeing. I don't mind the indirect spotlight. I think it's the direct spotlight that bothers me. But I've always been outgoing, had fun, witty, sarcastic, basically just a smart ass from the Mid Atlantic region.
Right. So,
So you,
go ahead, Coach.
so you grew up in Wilmington. That's correct, right?
Yes, sir. Born in Wilmington, Delaware.
You still there today? Is it kind of that's your hometown? You stay there, or you
No,
you moved away?
I live just outside of Fort Worth. Now I've been here in Keller, Texas for 19 years now, and it it's the weather and everything else, but I do miss the seasons changing for sure. I like the green grass, being able to lay in the grass. Here, the stuff we have is it's a vine. We have St. Augustine. I like that Bermuda, being able just to lay in it. I miss that. I miss the snow. I mean, I sweat in a meat locker, so I mean, anything over 80 degrees, I'm just in a full on sweat.
Well, you are dying in the state of Texas, then.
Oh gosh, you're lucky you caught me with my shirt and stuff on, because my son and I, we just wander around. If we could, I would just be in flip flops and shorts, nothing else.
All right, so quick question for you. Coming from Delaware, was it always your dream as being a Delaware guy to go and represent, for the university itself, the University of Delaware? Because I mean, you are their most famous alum.
See, you always talk about people that have gone to Delaware. Joe Flacco went to Delaware. Rich Gannon went to Delaware. They're not from Delaware, though. Myself, Elena Deladon, who's plays in WNBA, she's a Delaware girl. She went to Delaware. I grew up 3 miles from the university, so I was, just that's just who I am. I'd never been west of the Mississippi playing baseball, so I just, you just want it to be something where, you put Delaware on the map. I'll always be a 302 guy for life. That's just where I'm from. But just the horizons that were there, able to. I mean, I wasn't recruited very much out of high school. I think I was kind of a chip on my shoulder not getting drafted out of high school. But I ran with it, and I was fortunate enough going through summer ball into college of having coaches that all played through different levels of minor league baseball. So I was kind of around that atmosphere and knowing and just seeing how they carried themselves and how they handled themselves, and you take bits and pieces of that, and that put me to where I am, today.
You said you weren't heavily recruited. Colby, that's kind of like your story too. Now I don't.
Oh,
When
yeah.
he says not heavily recruited, he might have had 20 or 30 schools looking at him, and he says not heavily recruited. But Colby was in a situation to where Colby, how many Division I offers did you have out of high school?
I didn't have a single one, and I only had one junior college offer. So I was pretty low on options. If I wanted to play, it was go to Pearl River, which everything worked out. But yeah, I can imagine how that. I'm sure he had a whole lot more interest than that. But it's a weird feeling knowing that that's your only option, and I guess it kind of blinds everything else out, saying, "Hey, it's just baseball." Just go play baseball. Don't worry about all the clout with getting recruited and doing all this and doing all that. Just play ball.
I mean, I really didn't. I mean, as much as you want to leave, I was from a small town. I didn't know any better. I wanted my family to be able to watch me play. So, the head coach at Delaware at the time was Bob Hanna. I mean, he's had over 1,000 wins at Division I baseball. And I grew up around the program, and the assistant coach at the time played up to AAA ball. And so, I mean, those guys, it was just kind of, it was part of the family, right? I've always been that way. I'm just, I grow attached to things, and I kind of just keep, I don't veer off too much. I mean, I like the, what's the word I'm looking for? The loyalty, I guess, is a word that so I don't change a lot through different things. I just, living here in Keller for 19 years, same pest control people, the same, electricians, that stuff. I mean, people that I just, it becomes part of the family. And that's what I was looking for when I was at Delaware, to be able to do that, to see my friends, but still be able to play baseball. You
were looking for familiarity.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. You like the convenience of familiarity. I've heard that term 1,000 times.
And then, so 98 playing there, I got to go out to Team USA, and that was a different story, just different in general. Never be playing baseball. Now I'm playing with these kids from all these top Division I programs that you see, and I'm playing on the same field with them. Go up to Cape Cod, play up there for a year, and end up getting drafted the following year. And like I said, here we are now. Was it 22 years later?
Well, you didn't waste a lot of time when you were drafted. You didn't waste a lot of time in the minors. You said, I'm putting my stamp on this. I'm getting to the pros as quick as possible, right?
It helped too. Throughout, every manager I had played at the major league level. So I had guys around me, coaches around me, to be able to, hey, that's not going to work here. This is what's good. And, and I think the coachability of wanting to learn and be the best that I could, I was taking as much as I could every which way I could. And I was running with it. And, in the group that we had drafted that year in 99, myself, Colby Lewis, Hank Blaylock, and then Aaron Harang were, through the first 5 rounds, I think they were the 5 of our first 7 or 8 picks, because you get a couple in there. We all came through the system really together. So, I mean, you were around guys too, that family you have, and you're climbing that ladder together.
Colby, it sounds like your story. I feel like I've been listening to your story, but it's just coming out of Delaware. So,
yeah, with a whole lot more success coming from Delaware.
Come on now, don't shortchange yourself.
Well, this is kind of back a little further than college and all that. Were you a multi-sport guy? Do you believe that playing other sports is a big thing to help with your baseball career personally, or were you just a baseball guy from the time you could walk?
Absolutely. I mean, we had seasons, so I couldn't play baseball year-round like you can here in Texas. Played hockey in the wintertime, and I played soccer in the fall, and despite the fact that I hate running. So, I mean, I'm playing. So I was able to do that, different sports, helps out because it's almost a different demographics as well, that I played with growing up. So there's a lot of different pieces that go into it. And, I always, even when I was coaching here, I tell my boys, go do something else. Go get away from baseball, get away from it. Go be a kid. I was able to do that as well growing up because I remember those kids, hey, let's go ride bikes. Now my dad's taking me to the batting cage, this and that. And those are the guys that, as you get older, those guys start to taper off and just to kind of, go away from it just because they couldn't do it anymore. And they just got burned out. And I think that helped me of knowing that different mentalities that go into the sports and being able to, to take it over. A good buddy of mine grew up playing hockey with, was a great baseball player, played in the NHL, Mark Eaton. He and I were inducted into the State Hall of Fame together a few years back. That was something really special because, we had played together different sports. He was a hell of a baseball player as well.
When you had your opportunity, you were drafted, you went through the minors, you finally made it to the show. You were a younger guy that got an opportunity to play around quite a few veterans. I've heard in a couple of other interviews you've done where you talked about how you were smart enough, and you were talking about teachability earlier, and you were smart enough to kind of absorb everything these older guys were telling you. So are there? I know you play. How many actual MLB teams did you actually play for?
4.
4 teams, and then of course you played overseas. We'll talk about that in just a second. You got that one guy on like every team you were on that you kind of leaned on, maybe a mentor or somebody you ultimately respected, and you kind of mimicked their game.
My brothers were 10 and 14 years older than I was, so I always gravitated towards the older group of guys. So when I got here to the big leagues, I had the Kenny Rogers, Pudge, Juan, Rafi, Alex, Ishmael Valdez, Herbert Perry, Jay Powell, guys that had 10 plus years in the big leagues. And here's this little rookie, and I wasn't conforming to how, be seen and not heard, just because that was just my personality. I mean, my bench coach, Terry Francona, Jerry Nair was my manager that year, Oscar Acosta, pitching coach, Rudy Jaramillo, my hitting coach, guys that have been around. So, I knew if I got out of line or something, somebody would say something. I mean, heck, Rudy would put me in a headlock and wrestle and tackle somebody, but I could handle it because having older brothers, I kind of expected it, so I was taking in every little bit that I could. And, I mentioned that group, you got pitchers, infielders, outfielders, I kind of gravitate towards different ones. I didn't really just stick to one group. You try and figure out who has the best knowledge, who you could get from at certain points. And that was the beauty of it. I go to Milwaukee, I had Tony Graffinino, Jeff Jenkins, guys that were, older there. I go to Toronto. I've got, Doc Halliday's there. You got AJ Burnett, Greg Zahn, these older guys, Vernon Wells, these older guys that I'd, been around playing, but now I'm in the clubhouse with them. Washington, Zimmerman, Dunn, these guys that I'd been around. And it's the information you grasp is just, you're still learning from these guys, right? You've been in the league now for 8-9 years. You're still learning, grasping this. And baseball's still evolving. We're still learning, right? I think just nowadays they've kind of overthought baseball and making it actually harder than it is.
Exactly. Well, I heard somebody say one time, when you get to the big leagues, it ain't going up from AAA to the big leagues. You're playing some guys or playing with some guys that's been there for 10, 15 years, and they're on level 15 of the major leagues. They done made that many more jumps, by learning the whole time they've been there. And that's the thing that, obviously AAA or whatever is one jump, but it's crazy to me. Like I had a manager in AA, and he played in the big leagues for a few years, and the things that he was saying have been things I'd never heard before, and that's what's so cool about it. And then when you talk to other guys that's been in there, they'll say the same things, and it's like, if you weren't in that era or in the big leagues at that time, you're not going to hear that. It's like, this ain't just general knowledge that's being spread all over the internet. It's tried and true stuff that people have heard. That's what's cool about, especially conversations like this, but like getting in depth day to day with baseball guys.
You think about this, you remember as a kid, your parents saying it's going to be like this when you get older. And what do we as kids say? No, it's not. And then you get to that point when you're older and you go, they were right. The hitch, and that's how it is, right? And that's what because why? Because they've been a parent and they know what it's like. We haven't been parents. And that's exactly what goes back to what you're talking about. Because the coaches that have played at that highest level know, one, the mentality that goes into it, two, and what your body goes into it on a daily basis, right? A guy who never played above A ball can't sit there and tell a guy what it's like to play big just because he read a book, right? It's not, you've got to actually be in the situation. And that's what differentiates, the guy, because playing at that level, and I hear guys talk, coaches, even at youth sports, and I just sit there and just bang my head against the wall, and I just, you don't even want to hear it, just because you don't want to seem rude, but at the same time, please just stop talking, because you're not helping the situation, and it's hard, right? But especially as players, but if you want to learn and get to that level, anybody and everybody, you may have played a little bit, but no, I'm going to talk to that guy because he's been there, right? I want to know, because what do I need to do to get to that point?
Exactly. Yeah, and the thing that's funny to me is, like, speaking of like people that read stuff and all that, there's a lot of stuff on the internet now, and a lot of times when you do your research on it, the only thing they'll have to back it is like, okay, this was a very smart guy. So you can be as smart as you want, but if you didn't live it, if you didn't experience detail, like somebody can have a 32 ACT, but if they played in low A, how are they gonna tell somebody that played in the big leagues for 10 years or so anything different? That's what kind of kills me about society today is we try to stretch it to where it's not what it directly is, besides playing the game,
They're making it harder, and the gimmicks and the gurus that go with it. I mean, it's one thing but they're trying to almost reinvent the wheel, right? It's not that hard. It's and this generation, they need less information. They need more doing and less absorb. They need to do. I always tell people that this generation is now, they're not proactive, they're reactive. They have to be told what to do. Instead of saying, and I think a lot of it has to come to as coaches saying, we all tend to want to tell them what to do, as opposed to saying, well, what do you see? Well, is that right or wrong? And let them decide, well, wrong. Well, then what do you do? And then they actually have to process, right? They have to start to think, as opposed to just sitting there waiting for you to say what to do, right? You've seen these kids at playing at the youth level, guys at third base tagging up, fly ball to right field, and I see the runner sitting there, they're looking at their third base coach. Turn around, watch the game happen, right? You see these guys on iPads in the dugout. You can't learn too much unless you're sitting actually watching the game, knowing what's going to happen, right? Because especially on TV, you only see what you see on the camera. You're not seeing, the outfielders move or talking, and that's the biggest thing that people don't get is knowing hitters, right? Knowing pitchers' tendencies, what they're going to do, telling an outfielder that, hey, I'm going to slide in. I was telling somebody the other day about this. If I was moving over in left field, make sure I told Michael Young, Mikey, hey, I'm right here. Just so you know, I mean, you always have that interaction. You can't get that from sitting here watching it on an iPad. That's the stuff that they don't teach. They just assume that watch iPad and go.
Exactly.
So you are not an analytics guy, is what you're telling me.
It's called analytics, by the way, and that's why.
Well, I actually heard, matter of fact, a former player, Jeff Fry, who you're probably very familiar with, he actually made that comparison with the analytics, as you call it. So
that's what I call it.
He's not big on the numbers. He's not a numbers guy. So.
And those guys that are big on the numbers are the same ones that probably follow the science, right? No, I'm not that guy. Did it work? What did you do? All right, did it work for you? All right, let me take a little bit. Now, numbers don't say that, right? I'm not a numbers guy. I want to see it. Right? What they say, the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
Show me the pudding, and that's that. I'm an old school guy, and that's what we've gotten away from, right? The money ball. Right, and we talked about. I think I talked about it was one day on my show. It only works. It doesn't work in a short series, right? I think since Moneyball, the A's have been to 1A ALCS and they got swept by Detroit, and since then nothing. But the numbers say, nah, don't throw numbers at me. I want to see. I need to visually see.
You keep using the term.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Kobe.
Well, I mean, like to add to what you're saying is like, a lot with the analytics, they'll tell a pitcher, oh, you need to throw this pitch, or tell a hitter your swing path is this or that. But he feels it, like he knows, okay, this is a good pitch to throw here. He doesn't have to have a computer tell him, okay, I need to throw this. This is what makes this, because I feel like you play the game off of results. You don't play it off of what your perceived results would be. Like, oh, I think this is going to happen. Well, if you've done it enough, and a lot of people in pro ball playing every day have done it enough, you can see and tell what the hitter looks like off of a slider or a splitter, change it, whatever it is. You don't have to have some kind of computer program say, hey, you can't throw that. It doesn't work, or a hitter, to add what you're talking about. That's what's kind of crazy. It kind of takes a hold of a player and cripples him to where he can only do a certain group of things when he knows, hey, this is going to work. That's what kind of kills me when it's overbearing on it, which it a lot of times is, I
mean, especially as a pitcher, because some days you're not going to have your best pitch working. So then you've got to improvise. You've got to figure it out, right? Well, and that was, when we had our advanced meetings, all we wanted to see was what he throws and how hard he throws them. Not what percentage he throws in a 2-1 count with 83% humidity and 5-mile-an-hour winds coming from the southwest. This is what they've turned it into. Just tell, right? They can pitching change. Rudy's got it right here. All right, he throws this is how hard he. Okay, that's all I need to know. I don't want to have to overthink it, right? And I think that's the problem. I mean, hitting nowadays is the Mendoza line is going to become the gold standard for hitting here soon. I looked at a lineup the other day. The top in the starting 9, I think the highest average was 246. I mean, what is this? Is what I mean. It's become, what they've talked about. That they talk about the numbers and everything. It just have changed the game of baseball. And as for a pitcher, the stuff that they're teaching, here you go. I'll throw you some BP fastballs, right? Because if you just learn to move the ball in and out. But too many taking third strike pitches. I mean, these guys seem like they're guessing. 2-0, I'm looking for a fastball, right? And these guys come out of their shoes and they miss a curveball by 10 feet because, or 3-2 or something. Here it comes. They just frozen feet. It's awful, and it's a shame because it's hard to watch. I'm sorry, but it is. It's hard to watch.
Well, and the thing that kills me is, when you start looking at baseball, just on Baseball Tonight and stuff, half the time they don't even put batting average on there anymore. It's only OPS. That's literally,
It's the higher number they have on there.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I understand the guy hits 10 more home runs than another guy, but his batting average is 50 points lower. Yeah, the OPS is going to be the same because he's hitting way more home runs, but would you rather a hit with the bases loaded and 2 outs, or would you rather have a 1 in 11 or 12 chance of hitting a home run right here? So it's kind of a weird dynamic where everything's shifting toward, which I get it. They're trying to get fans involved and all that. The non-baseball guys is kind of what it's doing, but it's kind of crippling it too.
It is. There's no more small ball. There's no more league. They say American. No, there's no league now. We have a universal DH, so there's no league. It's just one league. When I was playing, interleague had just really started, and they had toyed with the idea of playing when they did interleague of a National League team going to American League Park. They would play National League rules, so American League fans could see National League games, right? And I was on board for that. I love that. But now you have this universal DH. And guys aren't, and starters now, they're only going, 4 innings, 5 innings? I think I made a comment the other day. Denny McClain was the last to win 30, I think, correct? And that was back in the late 60s, or somewhere in the now, and then 20 wins. Now, what is it going to be? 15, 10? Guys aren't going, and it's just war, OPS, or war, and what the defensive, and what are these numbers? Babe Ruth is spinning in his grave right now. These numbers, they're throwing it out for the nerds, guys that have never played the game. That's what they're trying to get it to. But what about the people that actually play the game that don't want to hear this stuff? We just want to go out and play enough. And it's becoming more and more of a job, and it is just being fun, and it's killing it. People, a lot of people don't like Manfred and what he's doing to the game. So,
oh yeah. Well, I think, like, for me personally, and which I come through a obviously different time period and all that, but the thing that's so special to me about baseball compared to other sports is how, like, okay, 100 years ago, what were the rules set, and what was the, was it 60 foot, 6 inch, that kind of thing. When you start messing with the size of the bases and the length of, like, they were talking about altering the length of the pitching mound to affect offense, pushing it back to make it more offense oriented and stuff like that. I'm like, man, that's what baseball's special. That's how the game got special, not making a whole bunch of changes to make it quicker and do this and do that. That's just kind of my 2 cents. But when it's an old game and you see the same logo 120 years ago, 100 years ago, that's pretty cool.
And we talk about hitting with guys that were surgical with a bat. They want to take out the shift. Really, guys are complaining. Learn to use the entire field. I heard a story about John Kruk when he was a kid. I think his brothers, he was the only lefty. And when they would play baseball, I guess growing up in West Virginia, that I think right field was closed. When you played right field's closed. So he had to learn to hit everything to left field. And that's why he was able to drive the ball. And I had heard that story. And you figure it out, right? You figure out a way to beat the shift, to do it. Guys don't want to. So guys, you're not going to have the Tony Gwynn's anymore or the Pete Roses that are shooting the ball here and there, and that were, they can talk about just being surgical with it. Okay, you're going to move over there, I'm going to hit it there. You're going to move here, I'll do it this way. Same with pitching. I believe guys don't pitch anymore; they just throw. Right? Guys are just trying to throw it as hard as they can. I mean, and the guys are up there with full body armor, shin guard, elbow guard, face guard. I mean, it's have a discussion with umpires. It's getting to the point where it's driving everybody through the wall because they can't do anything about it. And then on top of policing the game, you want something handled, the guys can't even do it. The umpires' hands are tied. Takeout slides, really? I mean, come on, I was talking to Zahn, the Buster Posey rule, right? If that hadn't been Buster Posey, if that was Greg Zahn, there wouldn't be any issues. But because it was Buster Posey, the same with the slides that set, the takeout slides. Guys learned to do it. How you figured it out? You knew if somebody got hit, if you were playing the middle infield. I was talking to Orlando Hudson the other day. If I looked at first base and I knew it was Chase Utley, right? He goes, I got to get rid of this ball quick because he's coming in hard. Now, and that's what I mean. The guys were able to think and see that. Now it's just, whatever. I can throw it. Nobody's going to do anything. It's hard. Like I said, it is hard to watch.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I got a quick question about, as you were finishing up here in the States playing ball, because I kept hearing you use the term about you talking about familiarity and all that kind of stuff. You got really familiar with playing here, but then you ventured overseas to play. Was that a huge transition for you, or was it just baseball? Baseball is baseball everywhere.
No, it's different. Have you ever seen Mr. Baseball, the movie?
Yes, horribly made. I saw a horribly made movie called Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck, right?
Yep, that's exactly how it is over there. It's run, and that's where my first taste of all this information, the overload, got over there. They would have advanced meetings, and they would sit in there for an hour, go over stuff. And I told I said, no, just tell me how hard he throws, what he throws. That's it. Because it's just input. They keep feeding you information. One day we were in spring training, and they had it's a quad of cages inside, and one of the guys down there, and there were no balls out beyond the machine. I go, what in the world is he doing? He goes, oh, he's working on hitting fouling balls off. I said, what? I thought you were trying to hit the ball fair on the field. He was trying to hit foul balls, just fouling stuff off. And I realized wow. And then, but they said the information, that's the kind of stuff though. That's where it started, and it ended up over here. And it's just, like I said, information, input, right? That's what these kids want. They want, the instant gratification as far as, with social media and all the information, right? And they don't think for themselves. It becomes, it's like, when you talk to your dog and it does this. That's what it feels like when you talk to these kids these days.
Yeah.
Go out here and do this. What? Have you not been taught? It's frustrating as anything. And my coaching itself is frustrating, but when the kids can't think on their own, and we would do that in practice, we would put them in situations just to see how they would react. Just because it's thinking outside the box. Now they really don't. The creativity and the mindset it's completely changed. And and you were talking about Jeff Fry earlier, and people don't like what he's trying to do, but that's all he's trying to do is the awareness of what he's trying to create because of how we've been taught this generation, the bat flips that end up 10 rows in the bleachers, the taking off the shirt. Oh gosh, it is, like I said, it is hard to watch, to see how this great game is becoming, because as we've had discussions, if some guy hits a home run and I'm on deck and he's bat flipping, doing backflips down to first base, when he crosses the home plate, my first thought is, if I'm getting drilled, I'm punching you in the face when I get back to the dugout. Right?
Oh, yeah.
But the crazy thing about that is, if, for example, let's say a guy hits a nuke, a 450-foot, 500-foot nuke, 20 years ago, heck, even 15 years ago, it was guaranteed the next guy in the box was fixing to take one in the rib cage. I don't see that much of that anymore.
No, because it's like you said, the umpires, it's out of their control now, and it would be done and over with. And because when I was playing, something like that would happen. You'd walk up to the catcher and you'd say, "Hey, just make sure it doesn't hit me in the head, right? Just right?" And they knew, and that was it, and it'd be done, over with, right? But now it's this stuff just festers and they can't do anything about it. Now, even if a ball gets away from them, they're getting warned. But I talked about the guys that are just throwing. The other day, I was watching some dude catcher set up away off the plate, and the dude missed by 3 feet and almost took the guy's head off with an 0-2 pitch. That's what I mean. They don't know how to pitch anymore. They just throw as hard as they can, and that's what I mean. You've taken this great game and basically made a mockery of it. How many guys let's see how hard I can throw the ball. Great, right? I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? There's no finesse. Gone are the days of the Greg Maddux, the Tom Glavines that could, that were just surgeons with that ball. They could move it in and out, right? And on top of that, the bases are going to be the size of a pizza box, And then umpires, I mean, they're not even. This is how they're going to call games from right here in their chair. Strike, right? So then they have to deal with the metaverse, right? What they did with wrestling and everything. You have to deal with the metaverse of fans. Oh, that umpire's terrible and everything else, right? That's it. This is what I mean. It's become. We could basically just start over. I think we'd be a lot better.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking on the kids not pitching and stuff like that anymore, this is kind of crazy. So in 2019, I'm playing short season, and it was a tie ball game. I think it was like bottom of the 10th or something like that with 2 outs, and we had a Latin player in left field who was a very had a ton of power, very good hitter. He could run very fast. He was a showcase guy. If he went to a showcase and you saw this guy play, you're like, man, he would be. You would think he was the best baseball player in the world. And he was a very good player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing him. But 2 outs, runner at third, bottom half of the ball game. A little sinking fly ball was hit out in the left field. He doesn't try to lay out to catch it. He tries to catch it off the hop. Obviously, the runner at third is breaking as soon as the ball hit. There's 2 outs. And he lets that ball drop. And as soon as he catches the ball trying to let go of it to throw him out, the guy had already touched the plate and won the ball game. Just a little stuff like that a 9-year-old kid understands, hey, if this ball is hitting the outfield, I better lay out and try to catch it, because if not, he's going to score and we lose this ball game. And this was I think this was a 21-year-old kid in 2019 and played. I don't know how long he's played baseball or whatever, but this is professional baseball. Pretty insane that kind of thing can happen. But that's just kind of leading up to, hey, you gotta hit it 98 off the bat, and you got to do this, and you got to better run this fast. But it was a mind-blowing scene to see from the bullpen. We lost the ball game off a sinking line drive that was not dove after. If he'd just ran at it, I believe he'd have caught it. But it was like he was trying to play the hop to throw him out at the plate for whatever reason. That's 2 outs.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create they're playing it into the dive, right? You see a lot of these guys on TV who are, Sports Center and playing, you go, all he had to do was take 2 more steps as he was running. He would have just caught it. But no, I got to look pretty and right, and so you can get all my followers on Instagram and Twitter and everything else, right? Make everything look good. And you don't. We talked about this as well. The veteran leadership. There aren't the guys in the clubhouse to pull somebody aside and just punch them in the face and say, "What are you doing?" Right? It's all about it's the me generation, right? New school is about me. Old school is about team, and that's what we're dealing with now. It's all about me. Look at me, right? Pitchers. I saw it in some of these college games, high school, college, whatever. Strike and do that, and they're out there just yelling at the other dugout and pointing at people. Just act like you've done it before. It's not even. What's this line? Let the kids play. No. Right? I mean, let the kids play in the street or something. Go do that. Go play in traffic, right? Those are the kids you want to go play in the traffic, right? Because that's just that's what we deal with. I mean, it's even high school games. Kids are getting base hits and they're yelling back at the crowd.
It's like it's lost the respect.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's what happens. Nobody wants to. We get on. We would get. I was talking to Eric Young one day. He said, Mitchell, we get on the plane. There's nobody plays cards. Nobody wants to do anything. These guys have all this money. They don't want to do anything. When we were playing, guys were losing 30, 40 grand playing cards on the plane. There was a team, right? They were there having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody wants to get out. He goes, and that's what I mean. There's no, there aren't a lot of the older guys. And that's what I think too now. A lot of careers are going to get shorter because of what's being taught. They talk about hitters. The average, whatever the average service time is going to be, is going to probably be on the decline from what it is now. It's.
Oh yeah.
You guys started something.
I guess it also helps that they make hundreds of millions of dollars, so they don't have to play as long as you guys did.
I guess. People go, why don't you come back and play? Maybe 10 years ago, I could probably do it now. Come back and just hell, I could go out and hit 275, right? If it was one of those things, you figure out what these what pitchers are doing and everything else.
You'd have to work on getting your home run total up, though.
I guess that's what it is, guys.
They want to hit 80. They want to hit 80 homers a year and bat 205.
Yep, exactly. They can't even hit their weight yet, but that's what they want to build teams around. That's what people want to see, right? That's what that's like going to watch. Was it Butterbean? Remember Butterbean, the boxer?
Butterbean. Used to love Butterbean.
Butterbean, go after Mike Tyson and see what happens. It's great for for show and everything else, but really you put them in there with an actual. But that's what we're dealing with, and like I said, it's a hard pill to swallow for sure.
Well, Kevin, besides what you do here, coming on shows like this, bringing our follower totals up because we know you have quite an army that follows you. What does post career look like for you? Like, what do y'all? I know you got a podcast because I've checked it out. It's amazing. I want all of our viewers to check him out. He'll tell you about that in just a second. But what else you got going on?
I got 3 kids. I keep hearing them banging on stuff upstairs. I got twins in 8th grade and I got a 3rd grader. So there's a place out here west of Fort Worth called Rockerbee Ranch. They built these nice baseball fields out in the middle of nowhere. Really, it's a great little setup. We were out there this weekend. So between driving out there and I'm driving to Wiley, which is on the other side of Dallas. So, this kid's nonstop through the week. We got stuff going on. Charity stuff we've got going on. The Rangers have stuff going on. We just go nonstop. So I go from about 6 in the morning when I get up, take my son to football, to 9 at night with sports. It's just they're making me old. Put it that way, making me old for sure. So I came home today and got a chance just to hang out with them for a little bit. And like I said, we'll be right back to it again tomorrow. And it never ends. So
how hard was it? How hard was it to make that transition to being, I don't know how to put it, but just a regular person again, not a ball player, not training year round? Was that a hard thing, or were you just?
How tough was it to be mortal?
It's, a lot of guys hang on because they're chasing something. Is my life complete with not playing in the playoffs or playing for World Series? No, I'm not. I wasn't. That's not why I did it. I wasn't. I just, because it was as a kid, that's what you want to do. You want to play baseball. You want to, you pick up a baseball card and you go, that's Frank Thomas or Cal Ripken, and all of a sudden you get to that point where I got, hanging out with Cal Ripken. Cal, I watched you growing up. Mike Schmidt. You see my jersey in the back, my favorite player growing up, and now I'm on the same field as him. So that's all it was. We're as athletes, we're here for the fans. The fans aren't here for us, and that's our job. So a lot of guys talking about guys hang on to something. Put their families through years of playing in AAA just because that to get back. No, I just realized what I make there, I could do something here and do it. So that first year away, when I stepped away from baseball, I just got away from it just for a year, right? Just to kind of gather myself. now I'm, back into it, involved with stuff, helping out around, the community wherever we can to, like we talked about earlier, get this game back to where it is. And with the amount of sports that are played, especially here in Texas, I mean, goodness, you can't throw a rock without hitting somebody that's playing baseball or somebody that's playing football. I mean, it's where I grew up. It wasn't, like I said, different seasons. Here, it is everywhere, and it's fun being around here and just seeing how things develop. Even, I didn't play football, but still understanding, the speed of the game and just watching stuff and seeing people. And I don't tell people what I did, that people that don't know who I am. I don't. I like to try and see how I'm treated, because if we're on the level, as soon as a lot of people say, well, I'm such and such. No, I don't tell people. I let people try and figure it out. Actually, it's funny. I was talking to an umpire today at the game, and we were just talking about where my wife's from and everything else. And I didn't know if he knew. And then towards the end of our conversation, after, throughout the game, he goes, "So when did you quit playing?" I had never said a word about who I was, and I told him. So I mean, I don't do that just because I don't want any special favors. I don't want, I just want people to be on the level with me. I've always been that way as far as, understanding where I've come. I'm a blue collar guy, right? I grew up just outside Philadelphia, in a blue collar town, that Rocky mentality. That's just who I am. Like I said, playing hockey, I played with that. I was telling people the other day, the hockey demographic was completely different from my baseball demographic. These guys were, they weren't even the middle class, lower to middle class. But they were a bunch of fun kids, a bunch of fun guys that we were around, because that's just what it was. That mentality is different, so you get to see that, and you get to see just different sports. Now my daughter's playing basketball. My son's playing football. Two sports that I never played, but I'm able to sit there and watch and kind of enjoy it. I got away from coaching this summer just because of, kids stopped listening at this age, 13, 14. So I went to so I just try and sit away from everything, but I can't avoid the stupid. I could be sitting a mile away from a game and I would still hear stupid that's going on and it drives me nuts. I need to get some noise canceling headphones, one of those little plastic bubbles, and just sit there and not let anybody bother me. So because I don't want to get, as much as I want to say something, you get to that point, but it's tough, but at the same time, and I don't try and overstep my bounds unless somebody actually asks the question. Then I'll give my 2 cents, And it's hard though, right? Because you have all these, the Monday morning quarterbacks, the people that read on Google. Well, Google says you should do this, right? Google said, oh, well, then, that's what you try and that's the stuff that's hard to deal with.
We were talking about what you were doing after you left the game, and I mentioned just a second ago you have a podcast. You have one of the most uniquely named podcasts I've ever heard. And I know the story behind it because that's a record that you hold that you haven't talked about. You actually hold 2 separate records that I was pretty impressed with. You're pretty upset with Mike Trout right now because he just, you had a little luster there because you were the only right-hander to have done it, and now he's joined you. I saw you congratulate him though. That was a class act.
And Mike grew up just across the bridge in Jersey, South Jersey, and I know his dad. His dad went to Delaware. I'd run into Mike bunch opening days at the old ballpark and talk to him about it. But it was just one of those things where, it's when him doing it, like I said, I'm an Eagles fan. He's an Eagles fan. We grew up right there. And, I'm glad he was able to do it. And records are meant to be broken, right? It was just one of those things. People had asked me during that stretch, the media, are you tired? What are your thoughts on all this? I said, I'll be glad when you guys stop bothering me. Right. And, in hindsight, I think when this streak started, the whole shoe thing, I had changed shoes. I had hit a ball in Seattle before we had come home and I started a streak. And I think it missed going. I think it hit the top of the wall. So I probably would have been at 8, give or take 3 or 4 inches. And then going into Cleveland. It's funny, Mike tied the record in Cleveland where I set the record in Cleveland. And I actually got the ball because it hit the metal fencing and came back on the field. It's somewhere in my stash up here of baseballs, but I have it. And to do it, I never really thought about it. That Saturday was when I think the streak ended. I mean, I never wasn't trying to hit home runs. What should I have done it? Like I said, in hindsight, yeah. But what would that have done for my team? Me going up there to try and hit a home run? It wouldn't have been.
Right.
It was just one of those things where it was, it was fun while it lasted. And like I said, I'm glad that if anybody that he was able to do it because, like I said, he's an East Coast guy, and everybody's and people come up to me. We didn't know you had that. I mean, It's not like I walk around with a T-shirt on. It says, this is what I've done. I've done this and that. But when they do bring it up, people will say, well, they have these guys. They said, no, those guys are all lefties. And then I think Kendrick Morales is a switch hitter. So, and there's more lefties. There's more righty at that time, more righty pitchers than there are lefties to be able to do it. And it's not something you actually, you really think about.
Well, for our viewers that have not figured out what we're talking about, he hit a home run in 7 consecutive games, which is amazing. There are a few that have hit 8, and I think there's 6 or 7 that have hit 8 in a row.
3: Dale Long, Junior Griffey, and Mattingly. Because
Oh yeah. The big deal is you were the only right-hander on the list, though.
Yeah.
And then Mike Trout ruined your moment.
No, that's like I said. The records are just there. That somebody's going to break it one day. But I talked to Mattingly about it. They were in town, I think, and he had done his over the All-Star break. So he had that time. I think he played the All-Star game of the year, so he had some days off. I only had 1 day off in between. So I mean, in doing that, but it was one of those things where you don't even think about it. But I do have the ball. It's like I said, it's somewhere. I think the Rangers have number 6, and I have number 7 somewhere up there.
Well, there's one record that you will always hold. Your podcast is named after it, Big Head Pod. You have the largest recorded hat size in Major League Baseball.
Okay. The internet's all lies. Don't believe all.
I just told you that the Google said so, and I believe it.
You know what's funny? Like that. I want to say it was 04, 05. Detroit was in town, and they had a pitcher named Matt Rooney. And the whole head thing. Somebody goes, "You need to go check this out." He came over and we were talking, and I put his hat on, and I was swimming in it. It was. I mean, I was like, holy cow! And the problem is with these hats nowadays, if you go buy a box of size 7.5 hats, they're not all going to fit like a 7.5. They're going to fit like a 7 1/4, a 7 7/8. So when I would get a hat, I'd go in there and I'd put one on, and sometimes it would look like a yarmulke. Other times it would be like an umbrella. So I would that was the thing. So sometimes I'd have to cut a hat, but it was just one of those. We go on the road and I need a hat. Sometimes it was smaller. Sometimes it just varied. So the internet's all lies. Don't believe anything that's ever on.
Colby, do you have any
visors? I like visors better.
Colby, do you have any idea how large his hat size is?
If it's in the 8s, it's big.
Well, I'm gonna tell you that Google said 8 1/4, but a independent source 8.5. That must have been, you must have had a head full of hair if you were 8.5.
I've been just like this, and it's all. Bochy's got a big head too. Bruce Bochy's got a big one too. But no, it's funny because I have a hat, and there's somebody gave me. Oh, we were trying on hats the other day. We were at a whiskey distillery, and Craig Ludwig played for the Stars. Goes, Mitch, you put this on. I looked, and it was it was one of the buttons that had in the snapbacks, and I looked. It was like 5 buttons in. I thought he put it on. I said, let's put this on because I don't think he had a big head. It was probably like a 7 1/4. And I put it on. I was sitting up top, so I said, all right, let me open. It was on the last button, where the thing just sits. So I have some hats in there that I have. I've got some electrical tape on there just to hold it.
I'm just saying, if you truly wear an 8 1/4 or 8.5, whatever it is, if you turn that cap sideways, that's like a tire cover for a Kia Sophia. That's how large that is.
Yeah, and it's what's funny. So I was in Milwaukee, and I get this package on my chair, and I opened it up, and it says Big Melon Gear. Man, I'm thinking, what in the world? So it was a hat. I actually still wear the hat to this day to play golf. This was in 2006. So this was 17 years ago. I still have the hat. I wear it. Then these guys, and they're from Pittsburgh, and I met them. They came to the ballpark, and their slogan was "One size never fits all." And they had another one saying that says "Love your melon." And somebody Googled it a couple months ago, and I think they're still around. But I need deep on the hat. I need something deep. You get those hats where it sits here and it doesn't want to come down over your ears. I want it to. So no, I don't like hats. I like visors and everything else. But no. And you know how the whole thing started with the head thing, right? Rusty Greer, Rusty started that, and I hate him for it.
Anybody that takes a nickname Shrek around the major leagues has got to have a large head. So,
yeah, he started the whole thing during spring training. He's the one who started the whole thing.
Well, Colby, you got anything before we let him out of here?
No, well, but we appreciate it. Obviously, big time having you on here. Thank you for. I know you got a busy schedule. Thank you for coming on here.
Oh, absolutely,
it's been awesome.
It's
guys,
fun.
make sure you check out his podcast, Big Head Pod. Now you know the story behind it, and he has amazing guests. Matter of fact, I checked in on one of my favorite players ever, Rafael Palmeiro. I love the conversation that you guys had. So we want to thank you. We can't thank you enough for coming on, and we'd love to have you on in the future.
Anytime, guys. You guys got my number. Anytime I come on here and talk, I love this. Just sit here and talk about, just different anything and everything. But like I said, my Big Head Pod. It's on the Dub Network, dubtalks.com. They're on there. They created this whole thing. It's, like I said, just a chance, people to hear different stuff. Right? People are tired of the same song.
That's what it is.
Everybody's got a story, and that's the beauty of it. So I got some good guests coming up here the next few weeks. So like I said, look forward to it. Anytime you guys want me on, you can always call. Anytime. I'm always here.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. That's going to be it for today. We'll see you guys live next Sunday with another guest. Have a good evening, guys.